Hello, my name is Kim and welcome to my Corner of Happiness. In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to add an embellishment to your crochet project. I use embellishments in my Proud to Serve throw blanket, which is a 100% customizable blanket made up of all half double crochet. It's easy to change out this blanket for different colored yarn with stripes, and you can use your own creativity to make it yours. You can check out my website for all blanket sizes and stitch counts. For the embellishment, you can have name tapes, patches, ranks, awards, anything and everything that honors your service member and or their family. It's as simple as arranging the patches however you want, sewing them onto a generously sized background fabric, and sewing that fabric onto your crochet project. If you're watching this video purely for an embellishment, like a tag or a brand name like this, all you'll need is the tag itself. If you want a background fabric, that's completely up to you, and some tear away stabilizer. You'll need tear away stabilizer regardless of what you're sewing onto your project, crochet or knit, and you need about 1 inch of clearance on each side of the embellishment. The materials you will need for the blanket itself can also be found on my website with the stitch counts for each size, but you will need a 5mm crochet hook, worsted weight yarn in any color you want. I'm using the Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo in the colorway Camouflage. And for the standard size throw blanket, you'll need approximately 2,500 yards, but I would consult the website with the size of blanket that you want to make to see how much yarn that you'll need. For the embellishment, you will need a sewing machine. If you do not have one, but you know someone that has one, you can go visit them or ask to borrow it. Depending on your comfort and skill level, you may only need it for 1 to 2 hours, if that. You'll need coordinating thread colors, some background fabric, and I recommend having a background fabric for the Proud to Serve throw because it makes your patches pop and stand out a lot more. You'll need some fabric scissors. You will need an iron and an ironing board. Again, you can probably ask to borrow someone's iron if you know them well enough. You will need some tear away stabilizer. I've heard that you can use tissue paper, like wrapping tissue paper, in its place. I've never tried it, so I cannot speak for it personally. I like to use the tear away stabilizer. You'll need some safety pins or regular sewing pins, but I like to use safety pins over sewing pins because the sewing pins are not long enough and there's a lot of layers to go through. If you wish to make the same size throw blanket as pictured in the beginning of the video, then you'll need to chain 175. You will half double crochet in the second chain from the hook and all the way along for a total of 174 stitches. Then you will chain 1 and turn. Your chain 1 does not count as a stitch. For row 2, and until you have completed row 158, you will half double crochet in each stitch across. A helpful tip is that if you know ahead of time where you want your blanket, where you want the embellishment to be placed on your blanket or crochet project, like if you wanted to put a tag on a sweater, go ahead and work up a small piece of your project. For instance, this is a baby blanket, size blanket, and I wanted to put it in the bottom left. So I worked up a few rows till it was big enough for my embellishment to fit. Then I sewed on my embellishment, and then I kept crocheting. Now, if you do this, I would complete the whole panel of the sweater or up till a certain point and cut your yarn and place a stitch marker in your loop. And I chose the wrong stitch marker for this. I apologize. Place the stitch marker in your loop. That way it won't come out while you're sewing. Once you have completed your blanket and you're ready for the embellishment, start by giving everything a good iron. I like to iron with the right side of the name tapes and patches down. The hotter the name tape gets, the easier it will stay in its form, so take your time on the creases. Go ahead and place the name tape right side up on your background fabric and begin sewing it in place. Pinning is useless here because these name tapes and patches are so thick, so do your best to keep it and any other patches in place. After that, fold the background fabric around the name tape and patches. You can eyeball this like I did or use a ruler. Give this a good ironing as well so it will stay in place. Next, position the embellishment on your project wherever you prefer. Add your stabilizer to the back of the project, and I like to use safety pins here to hold everything in place. Crochet is stretchy, so be cautious and patient to keep the embellishment lined up properly to avoid stretching or warping your project. If you have to start over, a seam rubber with proper care will not ruin your crochet stitches. Finally, give your stabilizer a good tug. You will not pull anything out of place, so use a good effort to pull everything off. Mine isn't perfect, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.